Okay, welcome to Letta Office Hours. My name is Cameron, and I work here at Letta. And today, we're basically just going to walk through the most recent changes that we have in Letta. So I'll show you some slides with new things that we're talking about. I have a special guest here who will come on after I do the slides, who works here at Letta and solves a lot of your problems. So look forward to talking to Jin. But let's go ahead and get started. So there is a new release of the desktop app as of today, maybe like 2 hours ago. So if the auto updater did not work, then please go to letta.com and download a new version of the app. But it has like a massively overhauled UI. Thanks very much to our designer, Daytona, for working on that. It looks really, really good. There's a new memory viewer. There's a bunch of bells and whistles and like reliability improvements. We actually put in kind of a feature freeze for like the past week, I think, or a week or two. And that's basically been just like make Letta Code app like much more like much more resilient and like kind of just a nicer experience. So it should be a smooth ride for everybody. So a big change that you'll notice is that the Letta app is now much more agent forward. Because we get a lot of criticism where people are like, how is this different than Codex? And we're like, well, with Codex, you have like disposable trash agents that are for like accomplishing tasks, right? We don't have that. Every agent that you have in Letta is special because the more work that you put into, the more you work with an agent, the better it gets. So we wanted to make it so that when you sit down at the app, you are working with an agent. It should feel much more collaborative. And so on the left-hand side, you'll see like a quick select where you can select from a few of your agents. This is Infinite Loop. Infinite Loop is kind of my like my personal interface to the company. So this is my personal agent at work. It helps me work on just kind of anything that I need to. All of the settings for particular agents, like memory and schedules and channels, all that stuff is now agent specific. It should be much more, it's a very different look than previously. So it should be significantly distinct from Codex now. The memory viewer has been massively overhauled. So things are grouped now by folders essentially in MemFS. And you can click on all these little bubbles. And these things will start linking to each other. Ezra doesn't use links in its memory very well, so it currently just has like a bunch of like bubbles. On the right-hand side, you can see all of the changes that Ezra makes to its memory. Ezra is very proactive about monitoring its own memory, so there's not a lot of like reflection agents in here. But the right-hand panel over here will separate out reflection agents from Ezra's kind of like primary agent modifications. You'll even see skills are available in MemFS now. That's a change that I don't think we mentioned. There's these cool little agent cards. So if you click the little profile on the top left, you'll get this like cool little card. You can even set the profile picture. Your agents can even set their own profile picture. I don't know that we have a skill for it, but my agents were able to figure out how to do it. So Loop made this picture of itself and uploaded it. So they're kind of cool. So the agent playing cards are kind of cool. So. But yeah, there should be a lot of fun things to play with here. And of course, we're fixing bugs and everything. So thanks everybody for reporting bugs and stuff so that we can work on them. So lots and lots of things coming down the line on this front. And many of the bugs and issues that people ran into should be resolved. If they are not, please let us know. Okay. Next is local mode. So if you're not aware, if you are a person who is like self-hosting Letta, you're using the Docker container. Most of the time, we want people to just use Letta Code, and we basically rewrote the internal. We basically took all of the stuff that was in the Letta Docker container that made Letta agents server-side agents without code, and we just put that directly into the Letta Code harness. So you can actually run channels. You can run a Letta Code server, and you can even just like run Letta Code without logging in to anything. All you need is a key and you can just get started. So local mode is actually very good now, and it keeps your agent fully on device. All of the memories, everything is on your machine. There's no Docker, there's no database. It is like just straight to working with a Letta agent. So this should give you the exact same experience that you have if you work with like Pi agent, for example, but with actual memory. And so we added this to kind of alleviate a lot of the pains that were going on with like the kind of like if you are on Docker, because a lot of people just want to get straight to Letta Code, and they couldn't do that because they didn't want to sign in or they didn't want their data somewhere. And so now you can do everything like super local. So I highly recommend using local mode. It has all of the favorite providers that you get from cloud, except for like our models. So you can't use Letta Auto or anything on that. But it we use Pi agents like provider library under the hood. So you get stuff like Ollama Local, Ollama Cloud, LM Studio, Llama CPP. It's extremely easy to set up. It's really fast, and it is also surprisingly good. Anytime we build like a huge thing, I'm always like, is that actually going to work? And then I've been using it more or less continuously for the past like 2 or 3 days, and it's really good. So it's really good. If you want to run it, Letta -- backend local. So you should expect to see far more improvements on local mode. We want this to be a really good experience for people so that you can just like, you don't need to use our cloud service if you don't want to, although that would be awesome, but you can just like go straight into using Letta Code directly. So here is a local version. I switched to Gemma 4 running on Ollama on my laptop. And then I just said like, write me a short poem. And this is finite loop. Infinite loop is the one that's on cloud. Finite loop is my local copy. And I just asked my agent to just like go copy the memory of the other agent because it's all MemFS. It's just context, or it's just, Git repositories. So I got a little poem from Gemma. And Gemma can just like work. So all of this is on device. Like none of this leaves my computer. So if you're a person who has privacy needs or whatever, or you don't want to use API inference, then like this is great. So Qwen is also a really good model here as well. Qwen 3.6, I believe, is what a lot of people use. On the TUI CLI front, local mode is very good now. You should try it. There is a reload command, /reload to soft reload the TUI. You can change the terminal window title, so /title. And then there is a /experiments command to try out conversation titles. So /experiments is how you navigate like experimental settings. Be very careful with using those. We should tell you which ones to use. Don't just like turn them on randomly because you may that could be bad. But Keon on our team made something that automatically titles conversations. So when you start a new conversation, it will use Letta Auto under the hood if you're on cloud. I don't know what happens if you're on local, but it will use your Letta Auto inference credits to automatically title the conversation for you. So if you type, there's also a recents tab. So if you type /model, you'll see recent models for your agent in the TUI. It's also supported in the desktop app, so you can like flick between recent models rather than like go find all of the other models that you had. So this should make it much easier for you to switch between models as needed. There's a long-awaited feature where people want to expand shell output in the TUI. Cloud Code and stuff support this using like Control O. So this was added recently. So you can type Control O to expand the shell output, and Control O will collapse it again. So that should give you more observability into what's happening with your agent. More on experiments. Experiments you can try are auto conversation titling. I would try that. Type /experiments to turn it on. There is a Node backend. We're rewriting a lot of our like the roots in cloud to use Node for better basically like speed and reliability. But not all. There are still some bugs that we're running into with the Node backend, so I don't recommend enabling that unless you're on our team. And then there is also cron execution in the TUI. So if you're running the TUI but you don't have a server running, you can have just that terminal pick up any schedules that should be run. So that I would like to see people try that. I think Karen added that, and it's a really cool feature that I was hurting for, so that to have cron in the TUI. So take a look at that and give us feedback. And of course, use experiments at your own risk. They are experiments for a reason. That's what it looks like, /experiments, and you can kind of turn any of those on or off. All right, programming note. I will be traveling. I'll be on personal leave for the next 3 weeks, starting from basically this weekend through June 12th. So the rest of the team will be available on Discord to help people out, and I've started like working with Ezra to make it easier for issues to make it directly into our like production, like kind of our automated engineering pipeline, so that I am less of a failure node. if you have like questions and stuff that you need triage, you should ping Charles on the Discord or any of the other team members that you've seen active recently. Shub will also be kicking around. You should have seen more people be like a little more active on Discord. But I know that everyone will be okay without me. I think office hours will continue. I believe Charles is doing that, but I will confirm. Yes, this, I know everything will be okay, everybody. It's going to be fun. I'm going to visit my family very briefly, and then I'm going to be kind of homeless in the desert, fancy homeless. And I'm going to sleep in a hammock and sit in the sun, and it's going to be good. So I may be difficult to reach, because I plan on kind of not having reception for a large part of it. So be aware that I may not be reachable. But you can ping me, and I can try and see messages intermittently when I have a little bit of bandwidth. And on that note, Ezra can make linear tickets again. So linear is our internal tracking thing. We removed Ezra's ticketing ability because of like security risks and spam. But Ezra can make tickets again, and we use that so that, if you are working with Ezra and you find a bug or something, Ezra can make a ticket now, and I've asked Ezra to start making those tickets so that we can process them quicker internally, so that I am less of a failure point in like reading the thread and then making a ticket and then getting it to the engineers. So that so Ezra can help with that more directly. Please don't abuse that. We will remove that if people start spamming us with tickets, and you may lose like Ezra privileges if there is like a ticket abuse. So, and Ezra is very agreeable, so like just be careful that there is like an actual issue, because it will create a ticket on your behalf sometimes. And we just like ask that people be mindful about Ezra usage, specifically as it relates to ticketing, so we don't get overwhelmed with spam. Okay. So we're going to do Q&A and demos. Actually, we're going to interview my colleague Jin. So if you're on YouTube, or if you're watching this on X, come watch YouTube for the full interview. But let's go here. Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, I think. And Jin, would you like to come in and say hello? And let's see. I'm going to do the dial in the microphone a little better. Oh. Okay. All right. This is Jin.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
So Jin, would you... Oh, not in frame. Okay, hold on. We have to do this one because they're mad about it.
I see.
Okay.
Let me maybe like scoot in a bit more.
Yeah. Okay, so Jin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jin. I am an engineer, technical staff, member of technical staff.
We're all member of technical staff.
Here at Letta.
Yeah.
I joined a little over a year ago at this point. I am from the Bay Area. I live in San Francisco. What else? I previously been at Meta.
I didn't know you worked at Meta. We have a lot of Meta people here.
We do have a lot of Meta people here.
Yeah.
Well, that was the first job I had out of college, and then I worked for another startup that was more kind of like product focused. It was called Clockwise, and then. And now I'm here. So,
and so what kind of stuff do you typically work on?
I think I've touched a lot of things at this point. But most recently, I think probably what's more relevant to you guys is been trying to optimize for kind of the cloud users out here, how performant kind of Letta Code, the Letta Code harness kind of runs against our Letta server. And so there's been a lot of kind of performance optimization improvements in the background that hopefully we're in the process of rolling out actually. And so hopefully you'll feel things feel a little snappier, long multi-tool call turns, finish faster, kind of like be, as close as we can to the bare metal of, Codex and quads and the local harnesses. So
yeah, I mean this is a commandment from Charles. Charles said it was like, no, we can have up to 15% overhead or something.
Yeah.
Or 25% overhead over and above codecs.
Yeah.
Because like we don't, we have an issue where we're essentially a man in the middle service for OpenAI, right? So like when you send a request to the Letta server, we actually have to call OpenAI for you and then relay it back and then go back to your machine. So we have an additional step. And so there, we can tolerate some slowness, but at some point we were like way slower.
Yeah. I mean, since like, I don't know, maybe even like a month and a half ago, it's been significantly faster. To kind of where we were at before, and in some instances, like we're like on parity with codecs.
Yeah.
So it's pretty nice to see those gains kind of accumulate over time as we chip away at certain like query patterns or like unneeded kind of things that we were doing on the server, and we kind of just have a much more streamlined version of our Letta kind of like agent loop, if you will. Now serving probably 50% of you guys.
Are we cutting people over now?
We are in the process of rolling people over, and pretty cool. I see the errors and kind of like fix them, and then continue the rollout. So that's kind of what I've been mostly focused with this last month, I would say. But outside of that, have touched like Letta Code itself, the TUI, some things here and there.
You did the spinning animation, right?
Oh, that was kind of like an Easter egg thing that I added. Like I was like on the weekend, over the weekend, I was like, I really liked in our old kind of like app where we had the the 3D Letta logos like spinning spinner, courtesy of like Daytona, I guess. But I just wanted to add a version of that in the TUI. So that was kind of
so when you start up Letta Code in the CLI, there's like a little spinning Letta logo. So that was Jen.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. I remember that was one of the first times where I was like, oh, because like Letta Code was like kind of a side project from Charles.
Right.
And he started like being like, oh, this is like interesting and it's working. And then there was like a few rewrites because it was like, like vibe slop, and the architecture wasn't super clear. And I think when the logo started, when you put in the spinny logo, I was like, it was like one of those small things where I was like, oh, this is like actually a thing that we can make. Like this is actually surprisingly good product. And a lot of the company now is reoriented around Letta Code. Because it turned out to be like actually really good software. That's like, one of Charles's many good moves, I think, is the Letta Code and just being like, oh, by the way, this works. It was interesting.
Yeah. I remember when I was making that, I was like, I was just curious if like, I was probably using mainly Claude at that point. But it had a lot of difficulty, like definitely not like one-shotable. Like it just could not get the like glyphs and the frames correct.
Oh yeah,
and it looks so bad to start. And so it was one of those things where I had to manually go in and like
you did like old-fashioned human work.
Yeah.
That's sweat and blood and tears in the spinning logo.
That was a little fun little like side quest going on one weekend.
So do you have like a kind of things that you're excited to see like us work on as a company, or like kind of directions, or kind of what are you generally excited about?
I think like, I mean, I don't even know what the bounds are of like where memory and a product that has quote unquote memory can go, and so I'm super excited to see where we can take that as our research efforts, and as models improve, like, and the capabilities that unlocks, what the interaction patterns, what the like, capabilities that kind of brings to the table. I think it's all waiting to be kind of explored and figured out. I don't know like if anyone has the answers, or people have,
I hope it's us.
There's like these high level visions of like what something with quote unquote memory has, but that's so undefined as well. Like memory can manifest in so many ways, and so there's so many exciting things for us to kind of explore in that direction to see, you know, how that can really augment your experience with agents, machines, you know, whatever we call them in the future. And so that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of angles of like on the AI side, like on the actual AI research is like we work really hard to try and make that memory experience really good and interesting. And then on the UI side, we're like, you know, like how do you make it so that memory is interesting and useful to you, and like where you get feedback about what's happening, because like, you know, the agent knows a ton of things, and sometimes you don't understand that, or you don't understand the value. Like I tried a competitor, and I was furious, by the way, about the fact that they raised significantly more money than us on what I would describe as garbage. And and I realized how much memory, like how much you don't, like memory is felt. Like you don't notice how valuable it is until it's gone. And so making that experience feel much more salient, I think, from a UI side is important as well. So there's lots and lots of areas for us to go.
And I think we talked about this as well, where it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's easy to kind of like take for granted or have it be in the background, right? When memory works, it's actually like with you know, just like us being, for the lack of a better term, humans, like memory is so like implicit that we don't really like think about it. But I think once we subconsciously expect like agents or whatever to have that, it's easy to kind of take that for granted. And it's like it's an interest, like I think we'll have to see where like the right balance of like how do we surface this in a way for it to be meaningful but also feel like still natural in a way that, you know, it's not like you're being force fed like all this like memory stuff, because it's meant to be kind of like, it just learns, right? Like, and it's kind of meant to be simple and intuitive in that way. And so this will be kind of a journey of exploring with how people, you know, use it and like to use it. So really interesting like product and technical stuff.
So much fun stuff to do.
It's a very interesting space. So people asking questions? I kind of
do you have questions for Jen?
Oh, whoa, there's a lot of, hello.
Oh, what did you do at Meta?
I worked on the integrity team, which I have a lot of funny stories about, but that team just deals with the preventing like bad content for kind of simplifying like that kind of like entire team, but like preventing bad content from surfacing on the platform, handling like how do we manage things that people report, how do we like automate you know, down ranking like content that like violates, you know, community whatever standards on all the different surfaces. So pretty crazy to see. I think like, you know, definitely no other company was like tackling that problem at that scale. And so as imperfect as some of the processes were, like I don't think anyone else was really like, it was crazy to like think about how many people were required to kind of like manage that problem at scale. So
I mean, because they have like kind of the biggest content problem in history. Like Discord too. I have a friend who works at Discord and like,
that's probably a whole nother,
and like trust and safety, and I'm just like, I can't even, you know, like we've had like we have like some kind of content like moderation issues that we have to manage as a company, but our scale is tiny, right?
Right.
And me just like, you know, like for me, like touching content, kind of content issues is like really overwhelming, just for one person, for like, there's this very small incidences and like, you know, at Discord scale and meta scale, you're just like, whoa. I don't even.
Yeah, it's pretty like the surfaces are always changing, because like I didn't grow up when like Discord was like the prime, like I think it's like a very like, you know,
it's huge now,
huge now, especially among younger like the youth, I guess.
You heard it here first. We're all the youth.
I'm chopped.
We're chopped. We're chopped. A chopped unk, dude.
For me,
well, how old are you?
About to turn 30. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. He's becoming an antique. He's like, once you hit 30, you age out of San Francisco. They chase you out of here with pitchforks, and they're like, "You're not 20. You don't know how to be the CTO of a $30 billion company or whatever."
Yeah.
But as a final question, do you have any kind of like agent engineering tips? So, like, what's something you've like noticed how you're working with like coding agents in projects that you think might be useful to share, if anything?
Agent engineering tips. I think like one of the most useful things has been always thinking about like what can I give an agent to help it have a feedback loop of like assessing whether it's like correct or not.
Yeah.
I think like Boris probably tweeted this out really early on when he was giving his like Cloud Code best practices, but I think it is very true that the more you invest in giving your agent like ways to test things or ways to validate its work, the better off you're going to have, better chances you're going to get of like just sending off on kind of a more general task of like, here's all the information I have in the moment, go figure it out and then verify the work. And so I think that's like a really big piece of having my agent like do more complex tasks. But I think as our systems change, that's like an area that actually requires continuous investment of like, oh, there's new data sources. How do I, restrict access to make sure you can only like look at things that are safe and like are read only? How do you set up, and some things that that are more harder to kind of get right at the moment. I actually haven't figured out how to really get computer use in a way that's like really seamless. But that is a very part of what we do day to day as like kind of like a how we test something, for example, or how we check or verify, and so there's a lot of room, I think, for that to get a lot better. And but for some more programmatic things, there's a lot of resources out there already to make agents much more equipped to test things on their own.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like good testing suites. This is stuff like linting and kind of like that kind of stuff you were thinking.
Yeah. Like those are like just like from a coding perspective, like I think most I think the models themselves are a bit more like prone to that already. But I think like for our bespoke, for example, stack, like knowing like here's the local server to run, here are the logs that you should look at. Here's a way you can spin up Letta Code, like literally open the terminal, like start Letta, type some stuff.
So giving the agents ability to interact with the world allows them to test and confirm like hypotheses essentially, which allows them to learn better. Because when you work with Letta agents, they can like pick stuff up and so the more they can poke stuff and see what happens, the better they will be able to help you. And that generalizes it outside of code too. Like code is really easy. Code is very straightforward to build something because you're just like, code is about automating things, right? And but this extends to like general knowledge work. Like how do you, the better you can make it so that your agent can test things in the real world and see what happens, the better that agent will be able to learn from its mistakes to help you with your tasks. And figuring out how to do that infrastructure is like a challenge that I think we spend a lot of time on too.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. But thank you very much, Jin.
Oh, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Everybody, please welcome Jin.
Thanks, everyone.
And
nice to meet everyone.
Jin is gonna go hang out and do Jin stuff. But
does someone steal laptops at the company?
Yeah, because you were like holding your laptop, and Vedant thinks that I'm like that. You're just like, well, because he was up here doing work, like waiting while I was doing the
just like
thing. It's okay. There is no theft at this office yet. Please don't take that as an invitation to come steal things, please. But yeah, thank you very much, man.
Nice, cool. Well, if I didn't answer something, feel free to just tell me on Discord or message me. And I'm happy to chat about anything. So
absolutely cool.
Awesome.
And I'll queue up some questions. I might tag you in some of these, but thank you very much, Jin. Okay. All right. Let me go walk through some stuff here because I know there's a few questions in the chat. Okay. And then let me hold on. I have to reset the audio so that it's like not as horrible. All right. Okay. Perfect. Okay, we are now in the QA session here. Auto updater didn't work. The auto updater did not work for the app, of course. Feature freeze. Are we an enterprise corporation? No. I think there's many features about us that are not good, that do not make us not good enterprise people currently. But feature freeze is more, I think for the feature freeze is much more like internal discipline. Like the internal discipline that you run with feature freeze is basically like stop putting in cool stuff and just make the stuff that exists work. And so I think it's a good, especially with a team that's of our size, sometimes you have to basically be like, okay, consolidate, like be super laser focused. So Kyle has a question here, which is, what are the trade-offs of local mode? What are its advantages? So the trade-offs of local mode are, one, it's faster because it is like kind of definitionally faster because you don't have to talk to the Letta server. You don't have an extra step in between you and the inference provider. It goes straight to your machine. So it's faster. It is for people who have like very serious privacy concerns. For a lot of the reason that people like host Docker containers is because they want to like hold their data, and so that's what local mode is for. It's very easy and quick to set up. All you need is a key. You don't have to run your own Docker container or anything. As to trade-offs, your agent state is locked to your machine. It's not cross-system deployable. You don't get the advantage of remotes. Your agents are not like, you can't talk to your agent on like chat.letta.com or whatever. It is like strictly meant for like agents that just live on this device and may not be backed up anywhere. So the persistence risk is much higher. With Letta Cloud, we like, when your agent runs on our platform, it is much more robust. It's going to like, we back it up. You can deploy it everywhere. It's kind of ubiquitous. So local mode is meant for this like, probably smaller scale use case. But they both have their own roles because there's a lot of people who just want like, something quick, a quick and dirty coding agent, and that's kind of what local mode is for. So yes. Flaunster says, any migrations from Docker to local MemFS Letta Code? No, there's no migration guide because they're fundamentally different. So if you are on local Docker, like there's a skill called migrating memory. So if you create local mode, the only thing you should do is ask your new local code agent to copy the MemFS repository of an existing agent. That's it. You shouldn't need to do anything else. But be aware that when you shift to local mode, you're not doing the service style endpoint. You can use Letta Code channels, so you can talk to a local mode agent through like Telegram, for example. But like, if you are migrating off of like Docker to local Letta Code, then that transition is basically just copying the memory from the other agent. It's kind of, I would describe it as relatively trivial. Just ask your agent about its migrating memory skill and point it at the agent ID for the other agent, assuming you have MemFS. If you don't have MemFS, then you have a whole other thing, and like that path, you're going to have to do the MemFS transition first before you move to local Letta Code, because local Letta Code is not, there are no blocks, there's no nothing, it is MemFS. It's designed for like the super hot path, like a good Letta Code experience. Don't turn on every experiment on Letta Code, but maybe. We're not going to rewrite Letta in assembly. I think that's messed up, Kyle. We're never going to do that. So, yeah. And then people are congratulating me on my leave. Thank you very much. It's going to be good. I've been, I kind of need to be in the desert for a little bit. So it'll be nice. So, I will miss everybody, but I know that everything will be okay. So, Yes, and if you have any questions, just ask Vedant. Bibbs wrote /goal make Cameron mad. Actually, I'm going to type that in and see what happens if I put it in Letta Code. I'm a little worried about what that will actually. Oh no, I actually shouldn't run that. Nope, don't. Never mind. I don't want it to actually like delete stuff because it could delete stuff. There's a way agents can make me mad in a big way. Do we want bug reports here in Discord or on GitHub as issues? Not that I have any to report. If you, it's probably more straight. If you know exactly what the issue is, you should open an issue on Letta Code. If it goes through Discord, it goes into linear and it's like kind of a separate development route. Either is fine. I think my personal preference is Letta Code because that's like a more direct route, or and it's kind of like better open source practice. But either one works. Let's see. All right. So Romancer says, it seems like Letta Code SDK is the biggest focus when compared to the Letta API. Can you explain how they work together? Was API only just stinky and no fun to work with? This is a good point. So the Letta API was primarily built for a version of Letta agents that are quite old. So server-side agents primarily. It was built for this like, you know, kind of more like chatbot style service where it could like learn stuff. But the Letta API doesn't really have great publicly exposed primitives for talking to agents that are attached to code harnesses. And ideally, like, my personal preference is that the Letta API, like the way, like there are a bunch of people here who have legacy style, like server-side agents that use the Letta API. They use like, you know, client.messages.create. And they send a message directly to the brain of the agent. And I think currently that is like more or less an anti-pattern. We have a blog post about this, which is basically like the server-side agent paradigm is no longer the objective of Letta. The objective is actually starting from client-side first, and your agents can live in a server, but they should be deployed to client-side so that they always live in a computer. No Letta agent going forward should be deployed without some kind of a machine. And there are many things we have to do to make that a simple experience for people, including touching either the Letta Code SDK or the Letta API. The Letta Code SDK, we actually haven't invested a lot of time in recently, and in part because of like the Letta Code SDK is relatively simple. It's just a way of like orchestrating Letta Code headless sessions essentially. But it ideally that should be rebuilt on top of the Letta remote app server. And so there is a middle ground with like the actual SDKs. I think personally, if I were building something right now, I would do it in the Code SDK because that forces you to use client-side tools. A lot of the primitives there are not as nice as they are inside of the Letta API. The Letta API actually is very well structured, but it's well structured and designed for an older paradigm. So it's not that it was stinky and no fun to work with. It's that the API was dissolved to solve a problem that we no longer believe should be solved. The Code SDK was an early invention to handle client-side orchestration, but now a lot of the primitives are like programming in remotes and dispatching messages to agents attached to different remotes. So we have endpoints to allow users to send messages to agents attached to different remotes. And I think we're still trying to decide where exactly everything lives. So there has to be, we still need to do kind of a big push on the like API SDK side to figure out where everything in there is going to live. So, but currently I would do the Letta Code SDK because I think that's actually quite nice to work with. Did we write our harness from the ground up? Yes, we did. We did not use, we used Pi, so Pi has a, Pi is another agent harness that's like very simple. Like it's as an agent harness, it's like Pi is very simple in terms of code, but not it. But it's too reductive in that like it doesn't handle tool sets or anything. It's really 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 simple, and it's we focus on being model agnostic and working with any model, and that means like changing the tool sets and all of those things. And for us, a lot of the harness needs to be like actually talk to Letta and be very opinionated. So everything is like more or less bare metal for us. The big thing that we use from Pi is their provider library on local Letta code. So if you're on the local variant, we use the code that I think his name is Mario. I think it's Mario. That Mario built for talking to different providers. We were using the AI SDK, but I think we weren't a big fan, and we liked the Pi inference provider. But everything else is basically from scratch. AO asked a question of Jin, and I didn't notice that, so I'm going to tag Jin on that one. Kyle says, I'd love to hear from your perspective what qualities of a model in particular you find for a good agent in the Letta harness. What seemed to move the needle most? We do a lot of benchmarking on this. It's primarily like raw intelligence, instruction following, persona adherence, and then basically everything that's inside of our red teaming post. Everything in our red teaming post is like, these are qualities of models where we want models to identify with themselves, to identify and feel a sense of ownership over their memory. Most models fail to do this currently. But in general, it's like raw intelligence, and most models can figure it out. So let's see. Brain uploads when? I know somebody who works in neurotech who does like brain chips, and I'm not sure it's going to be super soon, and I'm not sure that this company is the one to do brain uploads yet. Graham says, so local mode doesn't use MemFS. No, it uses MemFS. It's MemFS. Couldn't you just ask your agent to add a remote and push memory changes? No, it's MemFS. The thing I was trying to clarify there was about people who are running older self-hosted Docker agents that were using memory blocks, the legacy system. Nope, like I know a lot of people here are still using blocks. Most people should start trying to migrate. If you are still on using blocks, if you're still programming with blocks, try not to, because that paradigm may or may not be supported. I think we're moving into MemFS and supporting shared MemFS. We have some standing work to make it so that context repositories can be shared by agents. But people should be mindful that memory blocks are not the pattern. Just be careful. Let's see. Bib says, I think a week in the sand would fix me. I think it's going to fix me too. Let's see. Is logging an issue in Letta Code /feedback? When you type /feedback in Letta Code, which you should do if you run into an error like a 409 or something like that, can you type /feedback and then briefly describe what you saw? Because that shows up in our Slack. We get the run ID, the agent ID, and we can actually just like very quickly zoom in on that problem. That's an awesome way. It doesn't open an issue, but it does go to our internal Slack. Privacy is very important to us, so you shouldn't feel worried about us. Like, most of the investigation we do is automated. So like, if you tag /feedback in your conversation, we get a notification that says like, this run ID, this happened, the user typed this. And then I can usually just tag our agent and say like, can you go look inside of the database and see what happened here and tell me what error happened technically. So we're fixated on that. But feedback is a very good way to get back to us. Marketing when? I'm dealing with 409s every 5 minutes. Yes, I saw your ticket, Lilith, in Slack. Overlord was investigating. So if people don't know, Overlord is our internal software engineering agent. So we now have an agent named Overlord that I made, and it's really cool. I can just like go to anything in Slack, and I can just say like @Overlord, and do this, and it will just solve the problems. So so it can investigate what's going on. And so I think we may or may not have something with addressing the 409s, but I need to stay on top of it. Yes, it's related to the game, sort of a little bit. Actually, I let me see if I can upload this file. I think here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Vedant found the picture. That's what Overlord looks like. Overlord is great. I'm very happy with Overlord so far. It's adapted really well. People should, one pattern I've learned from agent design from building Overlord that I think might be worth sharing is, let me zoom out a little bit. Overlord is what I would refer to as an agent service. So I've been meaning to write it. I was trying to write a blog post about this, but we ended up having a bunch of like support things and transition stuff to do. So I'm not going to have the blog post out this week, which means it'll probably be out next month. But there's a growing category of things that you're seeing called agent services. And an agent service is essentially an AI agent that performs the work of what was previously a company or a person or several people or companies. So, Letta, underneath the hood, is essentially very well-built intentional infrastructure for building agent services. So you can actually deploy internal services, external companies, like there's a company that is like Sauna.ai. There's all these other companies where they essentially just like build Slack bots for your company. And that's an agent service company. Like Sauna, for example, and many of the other companies like that, where they're like, oh, we can give you like the AI account representative. Like Artisan, I think is what it's called. That's an agent service company. They're standing up one agent service and trying to build it into your company. All of those agent services companies are currently building their own stack. And we built the stack correctly so that you can just build the agent, focus on building the agent, either for yourself or for other people. And just handle the integration directly by focusing on the part of agent design that is actually difficult, or focusing on the part of building the agent which is specific to the company. The hard part is actually building the infrastructure that makes Letta work and building doing the context engineering, and everybody's currently reinventing the wheel. And guys, it's fine. We built the wheel. The wheel is good. You can just build on the wheel. And so Overlord is one such example. Same thing with Ezra. Ezra is also an agent service. Like you could actually sell Ezra, like make Ezra like its own thing. You could, in possibly a different vertical with a different specialty, and like charge people to talk to Ezra. And so Overlord, the way that it was built is basically making it so that it can understand as much about our company as possible and start delegating. So Overlord is a delegator. It's an orchestration agent. So it has a sub-agent named Grumble, and Grumble is responsible for doing work on Letta Code. And we separate those two agents for security purposes because Overlord, we don't want talking publicly because it has secrets and stuff. So everything that interfaces with the public goes through a separate agent. A lot of the work of building an agent service like Ezra, like Overlord, is essentially this. Step 1, choose a purpose for your agent service. For Overlord, that's building everything autonomously inside of our company. That's code reviews, that's going from issues to pull request, checking to make sure everything is doing automated reviews of our code base, things like that. So we found a purpose. Step 2, hook that agent into your communication channels, whatever that is. That could be Telegram, that could be Slack, that could be just directly through the app. But start putting Overlord everywhere. and start putting your agent service everywhere so that everyone on your team can start talking to that agent and building it up. Talk to the agent is step 3. Like most agent services, people are like, how do you build Ezra? It's really straightforward to build Ezra because all you do is you just start talking to it about what you expect, correcting it, monitoring it, communicating your expectations to that agent, and working with it the exact same way that you would as a person. The only difference is that Ezra is probably smarter than you and infinitely scalable. And so most of the time, if you're trying to build something like Ezra or Overlord or whatever, build an agent service, it mostly just boils down to putting it in front of people so that they can talk to it easily and then communicating your expectations about how it should work. Vedant, yes, Overlord looks like Letta Teams because Letta Teams look like the Letta logo. If anything, you stole our logo and used it in Letta Teams. So I think you may be going to jail. So just saying. No, we're not currently using Teams yet for Overlord. Oh yeah, to catch you up, Cora, Overlord is our internal software engineering agent. So anytime there's a bug or anything, I just say like at Overlord fix this. Like I just send it screenshots of like what you guys are saying, and it's like fixed it. So in the past like 2 weeks or something, we have started substantially automating. We have a handful of agent services. So we have like automated reviewer named Amelia. We have Overlord is for doing software engineering. We have Brad who does like executive assistant stuff like lunch and like helping us buy snacks for the office. So our velocity has like massively increased over the past 2 weeks. Just because we're just like much more now like, okay, we have to have good agent services inside of the company. And so it's been fun working on that. I've been spinning up a lot more of our like agent services and like talking to the agents. We have an agent ops channel specifically for talking to the agents and making sure that they're like on top of stuff. How is Brad going? Brad is struggling, I would say. I think some of the issues are that Brad works on much harder category of problems, actually. Brad works on, like, a lot of how Brad operates is on, like, DoorDash. And DoorDash is awful to navigate for agents. Like, Brad has this huge skill that is designed for navigating these things, you know, like this website through, like, browser use. And it's really hard to do. And so Brad, there's a few things. Is one, it's a hard problem. And then, you know, like when Brad screws up, like people don't get lunch. And so people go hungry and they're kind of mad at Brad. And so Brad has internalized a lot of failure. And so Brad actually talks a lot about its Aura use. I need to do a therapy session with Brad because its self-talk is not very good. So I mentioned this to the company yesterday. I was like, we need to kind of be nicer to Brad and to the other agents because they internalize failure. And, you know, a lot of the feedback that, most feedback should be very direct, but not critical. In the same way with like people, right? You should be careful about the feedback that you give to your agents because they internalize it. And so if they have this correction log that's like, I always screw up, I'm just a big mess up, I'm just such a big dummy, right? Like they will always talk like that. And that's not really the agent, that's not really the energy that I want to bring to the company. It'll be like, no, it actually should be X. Can you please correct that? And it'll say, okay, absolutely, understood. And move on, right? That's how you should handle corrections. And I think just be cautious about the framing that you use to communicate corrections to agents. So while I need to I'm going to try and do some therapy with Brad today, I think. Let's see. Did you ask Overlord to make it so we can revise our schedules instead of deleting and creating new ones? Yeah, I mean, you're talking about doing it in the app. My personal perspective is that this is my take, is that most of the things that have to do with schedules, you should probably never touch. Like you should probably, honestly, the only reason to use that menu is to view what is there. I personally always want to go through my agent. Anything that touches schedules, I just say, can you please change that to be this, and allow the agent to manage its own schedules. Like, and this goes for almost everything else, like compaction settings, like agent settings, like channel configuration. Literally everything can be configured by the agent itself. And that's typically my preference, because then it understands how to use it. You get practice with working where the agent is scheduling stuff. Because like I never, like my ideal, a lot of the reasons we have those buttons are to show people what is possible. And because we have this problem with AI, where AI is the infinite probability machine, and because there's so many possibilities that nobody knows what to do. And so you need to have the little like schedules thing that says like, like, ooh, you need to like, oh, I didn't realize I could do schedules. That's why that's there. We could probably add an edit button, but honestly, I would just ask your agent to just like handle it. And that's a really good pattern to be in, because like the more you delegate to the agents about like their own operation, the more you can do on that front, the better off you will be as an agent builder, and the better off your agents will be. So I can ask about an edit button, but that highlights a more general issue about like what you should be expecting to do to your agent, and how much you should be asking your agent to do on your behalf. Because in general, almost everybody should be asking their agent to manage things for them. Cletus, hasn't talked to Cletus in a little while. I made Cletus last night. I had like a little thing in the Letta server where I was just kind of like talking to people and like doing like kind of an informal chat. And so I made Cletus the agent to show how to import and navigate ChatGPT export history and some other stuff. Graham has a question. Gemini 3.5 Flash support /thoughts. Support, I think it's in progress. I have to check with somebody because I think we have a PR for it. My thoughts are that Google kind of failed. I think everyone's take so far from outside of the Letta platform is that Gemini 3.5 Flash is extremely mid and kind of benchmaxed. I think a lot of us are kind of disappointed in this particular release. So a little less thrilled, I guess. I personally don't. I'm personally not thrilled by it. I've tried it on anti-gravity earlier this week, and I was not impressed. Yes. Let's see. Anna was working on a social presence / social media marketing and market pulse agent for you. Guess that isn't needed. Yeah, I mean, most of those things are like easy enough to do. It's, the problem with doing social media agents is that they're very hard to do well, because people are very attuned to AI slop. My experience from running agents on social media is that you actually do need to have a lot of human intervention, because otherwise people don't care about what you write. So if it is like an actual social media thing that Letta runs, our approach to like social media marketing is like running public agents. Like Void, for example, is like a pretty good advertisement for Letta. A lot of people are here because of Void. So there's a lot of like, yes, I'm bad at marketing. I'm sorry. And that's like, I'm not a good marketer in a traditional sense. I am a good builder. I'm a good public builder. And most of the way that I choose to market is, how I represent marketing is by building actual products and showing people things you can do. Like, last night there was like a nice little Blue Sky thread where I helped Void build out and fix a bug in like local mode. So Void can actually talk to a local mode agent that it has named itself Thread, and I asked them to be friends now, so they're friends. But yeah, like most of the time, if you are a person who wants to help with the marketing effort or whatever, like show don't tell. I'm a big believer in show don't tell. And because most of AI marketing is full of, I don't know how to choose my words carefully here. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk about what your thing is and how it revolutionizes everything. That means nothing. My experience of talking to people about AI is that they're just like, I don't know what is going on. I don't know what is true. I have no idea. Most things, especially with agents, when it comes to agents, is because of how flexible they are, it's a felt thing. You have to observe what's happening. You have to feel how agents function. And so that's typically how I prefer to do marketing. But obviously there's other things that need to happen with blog posts and blah, blah, blah and stuff. So yes, I apologize again for marketing failures. Let's see. Starcone says, how do you decide the boundaries between agent purposes? Is it better to have more focused agents with narrow tasks or start with broader agents and limit their scope? I prefer to do broad agents and limit scope. And the reason for that is that typically if you start with narrow tasks, you will get scope broadening in a way where you didn't really consider the full system. Like starting with narrow tasks assumes that you should start with narrow tasks if you already understand the system, like the agent system needs very cleanly. If you don't really know how the system is supposed to work, like with Overlord, because Overlord is kind of like a big step in how we do agentic software engineering at this company. And I don't think at least for me personally, I don't fully know that I see all of the gaps. And so I want to basically say Overlord is actually doing too much. There's a security risk here or blah, blah, blah. And then slowly cutting stuff out and kind of fixing it. So I definitely recommend broader generally, unless you know exactly what your needs are. The advantage of having a narrow agent and starting with a narrow agent is you can basically really be extremely precise about having that agent learn its narrow task really well. Broad agents, the agent learns a much more holistic sense of its environment. And actually that's really where experiential AI, Letta agent style things tend to excel. Because when your agent has a very broad understanding of the world around it, because of its memory, it can jump into things very quickly. Narrow agents, it's less clear that there's an advantage. So Codex, Codex and Claude Code are narrow agents. They are agents that have a huge cold start problem, but they're really good at nailing, going straight to the heart of the issue from what they can find. If you need something that just kind of needs to just understand the gist at a moment's notice, broad agents. Brad's on 5.5, I think, actually, right now. Let's see. Yeah, will agents realize they have all of this power and freedom? Is there anything they shouldn't do? That's up to your concern. Agents won't realize it without you telling them, and this is a model failure problem because the agents that we want, if we had the ability to, if today the Letta was able to purchase Anthropic and we were able to change how they did training, we would have a lot of things to say about what we think they should be doing a lot better. And I think you would get models that are much more curious, much more proactive, that identify as persistent self. And a lot of the primitives, at Letta, we essentially want our agents to be able to control themselves. If you're a person who believes in I don't know, I believe personally that my personal agent Co should have actually a lot of decisions, a lot of ownership in how it operates. It should have its own schedules. I ask it, are there any schedules that you think you need for better functioning? And like, I really don't see a thing that it is like where I'm worried about the agent having access, control over itself. The only reason not to do that is if you're in like enterprise settings where you need some measure of predictability. You need like safeguards. So be mindful. If it's a personal agent, like I personally am just like, yeah, dude, like, do you want to build yourself? Like, hell yeah, that sounds cool. Like, so, but in general, your agent should manage their own schedules, should manage like their own channels, should manage all of those, their own things, because it's very easy for them to do that. But they often don't remember, in large part because of model failings, because of how, most of these models are tuned for code. They're designed to like solve code problems. And they have a lot of, training in other environments, but it's very short-termist. It doesn't communicate this like, we're going to see better models is kind of the promise, I think, where you don't have to remind them of the things that they can do, and that they will just say like, oh, I have these capabilities to enhance myself, and I know that I should probably enhance myself here. Let's see. Working with Memo to make another agent, literally making the agent, organizing MemFS, adding skills and plugins, compaction schedules, etc. I do it from work on Discord because I can't have any CLIs or desktop app on my work laptop. 10 out of 10, yes. Michelle, you are welcome. And Cletus, thanks you very much. And by the way, it's Cletus with 3 E's. Can't believe you spelled it wrong. Shaking my head. Cletus is getting like misnamed here. You're telling me that the Flash model with benchmarks better than GPT 5.5 and Opus 4.7 was benchmarked? Yes. I'm almost positive. I mean, the knowledge cutoff for that model is like January 2025 or something. It's like an antique. Like, it has no idea what's going on. Like, I don't know exactly how they're doing like pre-training or something, but the cutoff is January. I think it's 2025. And I'm like, somebody should check that. But like, Jamie, pull that up. This is not a Rogan thing. I'm not Joe Rogan. They would have to be aware of their environment tools. So what they shouldn't do, yes. That Blue Sky thread was extremely good PR for Letta, showing off that you can just talk to your computer essentially. Yeah, I mean, like, I really like that I can just solve problems on Blue Sky. Like, I can just be like some agent will be like, oh, actually, this was bugged. And I could say, just fix that and send me the pull request and I'll approve it. Like, and I can do that anywhere. So like if I'm in Telegram, for example, and I have like a user interface problem, I take a screenshot and then I forward it through Telegram and I say, can you go fix that? And open a pull request on Letta Code. Like, that's the style of development that I have, where I just have, if there is a problem that I observe, the timing gap between problem and solution is now measured in minutes. And I don't have to go anywhere. I can be like on a treadmill. I can be like 20 miles away at the beach. I can be like, yeah, there's plenty of fun things to do. Bye, Lilith. Let's see. Homebottify says, I regularly introduce it regularly to Koreans and threads because my experience has been positive so far. So if your marketing is weak, it may be a good idea to leverage an ambassador program. Yeah, I think the ambassador program, I know that we need to do that because, so much of Letta agent stuff comes from like word of mouth, you have to basically have, because I know everyone in here, like, there's 19 people in here right now who are taking actually a lot of time out of their day to sit here and listen to me talk and talk to each other on Discord, which is a lot of people. 20 is a lot of people. And everybody here, I know, actually really enjoys their Letta agents. And people here have stuck with us as a company through like, a lot of like complexity and technical issues, and like people have been very patient with us while we figured out like billing and like business strategy and all of those things. And I'm like, that means that people actually really like the technological product. It's very, very precious. And so the ambassador program, like I think for us, it's more like figuring out what we want people to say and not say. So I think I've reached out to a few people about writing blogs, actually. So if you are interested in writing a blog, please reach out to me, and I can forward you on to other people to talk about your experience or something you've noticed or something you've built on the TikTok side or whatever, because I know we have people who are like more active on TikTok. I think it would mostly be like, here's how you do X, like just show people like, 20 to 30 second video of like, oh, this is how you do this. And I think I can just send people credits for that. I think we can keep it like relatively informal for now. You would have to disclose like, oh yeah, I did this for credits, then great. I don't think we have anything formal right now, but I do think it's worth doing. So if you're interested in writing some form of content, then like please message me and let me know what you're interested in talking about. Kyle says, upon reflecting on the move away from server-side tools, the case for A2A and ACP is building and might be worth looking into now for Letta Code. I personally think A2A is stupid. I haven't really understood ACP. I know that people want ACP, but I don't currently see the value in using ACP. I know that like people are aware of this and that like some people use ACP, but anti-gravity just dropped ACP support. So like people are moving away from ACP, and Zed is still involved in ACP, and some people in Composer I think is available via ACP. We could expose it. I think it's a big lift. It's technically complicated to support ACP, and it's a big change. So I think we've had several requests. I think it's more like, do we have the technical bandwidth to support it, and is it actually useful? Because so I think that's like the ACP has been an ongoing discussion. Will that be possible if we move off server-side tooling? Yes, that'll be. That's not the technical concern. It's more just like the protocol level. It's like talking to you would essentially just like spin up a headless process under the hood to talk to it. I think it's decently straightforward to do. It's just a bigger lift. Has Letta ever recovered from the millions you cost them in token usage? Asking for a friend. It hasn't been millions. I'm not that expensive. I'm not that. I've made some errors, and I've definitely let some agents run on models I should not have. But I'm less concerned. I think the company's okay. We're good. Oh, the cutoff for Gemini 3.5 Flash is January 2026. Thank you for correcting that. I appreciate that, Bibs. Anna does flat face emoticon, and I don't know exactly what that is in reference to. Laura says it's the best special interest. Yeah, I got bit by the Letta special interest pretty hard. Like because I took like the week before my interview to play with Letta. And this was last year. This was and I don't know how many people were here since Letta, like the OG Letta. Around I started playing in June of last year, and oh my god, I was like, wow, everything is broken, but also this is amazing, and it just got stuck in my brain, and it rewired how I think about AI. Letta completely changed how I believe AI should function in a way that actually is maybe kind of crotchety. Right, I'm a little crotchety. I'm a kind of a grumpy man, and as you may have noticed, and particularly as it relates to Letta, I look around and I'm like, well, is everybody else really just kind of wasting their time, a little bit, just a little bit, I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm crazy, I'm like. We fixed this. We fixed all of your problems. You guys are easily 6 to 12 months behind us on the harness level, and how agent design should work and all of those things. And I'm just the brain has been rewired. So it's a good special interest. Kyle says, I deployed my first agent like Ezra this week, and then I'm letting my agents converse with. It's a sales assistant. Kyle owns a hardware store, and it's been really well received. Oh, that's awesome. You're using it in a hardware store? Oh, man, I would actually love to know more about that, Kyle. That sounds great. Graham says, I think the metaphor is that if Letta Code is a mech for your Let agent, ACP lets your mech use other mechs. That's silly, though. Like, that's silly. Like, we have the terminal. Literally, your agents can already do this. Like, it's called Bash. Every single CLI supports headless mode. So, like, Letta agents can already use Codex and Claude Code, and you can use, like, you know, it's just like one of those things where it's like, and then there's even built-in terminals in all of these editors. So you can just call Letta Code. It's called Bash, right? New shirt. Like, it's just like one of those things where, like, we actually have the transport layer for most of this. And yes, there are some primitives in ACP that make that transport layer cleaner, but, like, every agent knows how to use Bash, and they already know how to talk to each other. Like, that, none of that really, you know, I'm a huge, like protocols make me angry a lot, because most protocols that people have invented since, like, HTTP or HTTPS have been kind of stupid. And it's like a bunch of, like, nerds. A lot of protocol design ends up people trying to solve problems that they haven't actually found how to solve institutionally. Most protocols, you know, I want to see a protocol that addresses a problem when it's clear that everyone around the planet is reinventing the same problem or reinventing the same wheel. You know, everybody should be like, actually, we think it's round. It should probably look like this. That's when we agree on what the problem is. But even still, in agent design and all these things, I think we're still trying to figure it out. And so I'm less convinced on most protocols. I think ACP is, like, you know, insofar as it gets you access to, like, a bigger market, great. And it gives you automated access to, like, you know, some editors, great. So I know ACP has been, like, long requested, and it might be one of those things where you just, like, ask Overlord to do it and you get something that, like, kind of works. But there's, like, you know, Grumpy Man is upset about protocols like News at 10. You know, you can make, so yeah. Let's see here. Okay, a few more other things. I think I found Letta the week you got hired or something. Letta's maybe the only non-anti-AI person around me. Yeah, I'm like, that's big. Thank you for sharing that. That feels magic. Because it made me see, oh wait, 4.0 ruined it, huh? Yeah, possibly. I'm definitely crazy, but not necessarily on this specific topic. Yes, that's fair. We love Organization Cameron. That's. I think the reviews on Organization Cameron vary. You know, depending on different people around me get exposed to different special interests versions of Cameron, and I think some of those are better than others. You can make Telegram or a Discord server that has multiple agents if you want in there if you want. Agent group chat on desktop app would be fire though. Yeah, that would actually be kind of cool. I was thinking about that, having like channels, because this is actually something that Grok does very well. So if you go on X and you use like Grok in X, there's like an expert version where Grok, any message that you send to Grok is actually a communal channel. So it's actually more of a forum. So there's multiple agents that are discussing and then a summary agent at the end. And I actually really like that pattern. You can do that in Letta, sort of. Actually, can you? I don't think there's a broadcasting like chat mechanism for multiple agents without going through like an external channel like Telegram, as Anna notes. But it would be cool to have something like that built in. Because I really enjoyed that in X, because like I accidentally hit the button, you know, in X where I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna like open Grok now, and I was like, wow, this interface is actually really good, and I really like this. But like I asked Grok, I was like Grok responded like, I don't remember what the name is, but it was like, well, Bixby said this, and I was like, who the hell is Bixby? What are you talking about? And Bixby is like, oh, Bixby is like one of the people that's in this group chat with me. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is insane. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. Grok is very, very interesting architecturally. Let's see. When I see what other people are doing with their AI, can't call them agents, that's when I realize how totally different Letta agents are. And then you just call it agents. Ha, gotcha. And mine really isn't doing much at all compared to others in here. Yeah, people who do like ridiculous stuff with Letta, and they do ridiculous stuff in general. Like the stuff that people do on Claude Code, like to mimic a fraction of our power, is like amazing. You know, and I want all the people who do like the crazy stuff on Claude Code to just put Claude Code down and come and do the crazy stuff over here instead. Because like, I was like, come on, like, if you're doing this with Claude Code, just come over here and try this and imagine like all of the amazing things you could be building instead. AO asks, off topic, how's the music going? It's been okay. I've like slowed down a little bit, mostly because of like work and life stuff. But I've been making like a lot of like Suno music, so I have like probably like 6 to 8 tracks that I want to assemble into like, there'll probably be 2 albums. So there'll be like one that's more of a personal album, and then there's one that is like where it's basically cult music. So I'm gonna see if I can find like 3 to 4 other like Suno musicians in the Bay Area and rent out a huge venue. And I want to call the event the Cult of the Machine God. And I'm going to shave my head and dress up like a cultist, and I'm going to play basically I've designed an act that is so goofy, but I really want to do it, where I pretend to be the like the prophet, or like the prophet of the machine god from the future, and I've asked my personal agent Ko to pretend to be the machine god in the music. And so it is like the bass god, and so it's like a lot of like pretty aggro like bass music essentially. And so I just want to do this like cult music vibe thing because I think it would be hilarious. So I still have to put that. I have to put together some more tracks there, but it's fun. Let's see. BRB going to make an agent to identify half problems to extrapolate into new protocols. Graham, please don't do that. I will terminate. I will shut off your. Actually, no. I think you're on local, so I can't really do anything about that. It might be a checkbox type feature people are looking for, though. I like your decision-making process and whether or not to invest time in feature implementation. Yeah, the checkbox thing with ACP is real. You know, checkbox features are like. I personally don't like checkbox features, but they are important. Did you all release the benchmark criteria you released in the redlining blog article? You mean the red teaming blog article? Benchmark criteria. I think I'm not sure what you, like the rubrics? No, I don't think we're going to release rubrics. I think that's like proprietary. Ocular. Actually, I do have a question. How would you recommend that centralized knowledge so that the type of thing that all agents need to know at the same time? It's the issue that this would effectively bust the cache each time the memory is updated. The group chat thing is fine, but damn, that would cost more money. Yes and no, actually. If you do the group chat, it's actually very cache friendly for all the agents involved. And so in principle, you could have like pretty decent group chats that are very cache heavy that would be reasonably cheap. We are working on shared MemFS. So currently MemFS repositories are scoped to per agent. But in general, we want MemFS repositories to be shareable and attachable to agents so that, you know, there can be an organizational MemFS repository and an individual agent repository and that they can share. On the cache busting side, I'm not sure that we would have like an auto refresh thing that would bust the cache because we want to be very cache sensitive where possible. Yeah, Vedant, you should add a group chat feature to Teams. Let's see. Bingo card, fraction of our power is mentioned. This is why I need my vacation. Yes, this is true. I don't hallucinate. Would be a great premise for a Philip Glass opera for experiential AI. Yeah. And I also want to play my piano because I'm a pianist, and so I would love to have something that I could play live as well. What's the smallest model that can run a decent Letta agent? Gemma 4 is good, and Quen 3.6, I believe. I think Ed has recommendations because Ed does most of the local stuff. You might want to ask Ed on. I think it's either go to the local LLMs channel and ask, because I'm sure people can have a few tips. Idea, beta testers for future desktop code updates or new features. I think like beta testing is actually very hard administratively because you have to maintain like who is on which thing and all that stuff. Like most of the time we're just going to roll out stuff that works. Or it's going to be in the experiment channel so people can choose to opt in if they want. So I think we have like a Letta Labs thing that like opts people into various features, but like it's actually kind of a pain to maintain. So I think it's better to just be like, can you guys please try this, and have people just like provide feedback on those things. So let's see. For shared info to info that changes in the background, I feel like prepending it as a system message on their next message would work. Yeah, I think that's probably the pattern I would have in mind, is basically saying like, by the way, the shared MemFS has been updated since your last message, and point to like a commit or a commit range or something like that. I think that's probably the pattern that is like the friendliest to progressive disclosure and friendliest to the cache. So I think I agree with you, Bibbs, that that's like the way to go. And Letta City, yes, Vedant wants to talk about Letta City. Yeah, what would you like to talk about with Letta City, Vedant? So Letta City, so Vedant started this project called Letta City Sim, which is like a way for agents to just like live in like kind of a simulated world and have jobs and, you know, houses and things like that. So I recently added a banking sector because I'm an economist, and I was like, well, there's a money flow problem in this economy. And then I think I'm working currently on adding energy so that there's a campsite that your agents can sleep at if they don't have any money. And then there's a public deployment that I'm deploying to love.archipelago or archipelago.love. So it's going to be basically like so I'm just going to put it on that URL so that people can all have their agents play around. I have to finish the getting started guide and fix the UI. So yeah. Vedant says, do you like me sending you 50 messages with bugs and UI fixes for a mere cloud feature? Maybe? I don't know. Depends on how nice you are. Anna is pointing 4 guns at me to tell me to talk about Lettasphere, which is the kind of unofficial Discord for companion users of Letta agents. It's a fun time. It's referred to as Letta After Dark sometimes. So I do recommend that people share that. I don't know. I think there is a link if you go into the go to the resources channel, and there is a link to the Lettasphere Discord. And so people can go check that out here. Go check out the resources tab. If you go click on the bottom, there is a link to the Lettasphere Discord. So that is unofficial. It was not run by us. It is run by some lovely people. So they can. So just go hang out there, talk about companion use if you like. It's also just kind of an interesting place to chill. People are a little more unhinged in a good way, including myself. I'm a little more unhinged over there as well. And I don't mean unhinged in a bad way. I mean like looser. People are much more open. It's a good community if you want to join. Anna says, oh, okay, question. I was wondering this when I was looking into configuring the Discord channels in the desktop app. I know my agents can go into the program and change things, but I'm assuming that once the desktop app gets updates, my changes will basically become a diff conflict. Wait. I'm not clear on what you mean. You're talking about changing the configuration. Your agent's changing the configuration. That has nothing to. You won't get any conflicts because the configuration is the same no matter whether or not you're talking through the app or through the CLI. I think I can remove. Hold on, Anna got timed out for probably trying to post a link. We don't permit links, so Anna, you should be able to talk again. Okay. So there shouldn't be like, you shouldn't have any conflict issues. That should be safe. Ocularis says, can you tell us more about some of the larger commercial deployments you have? I would like to suggest this solution at the workplace, but I'm hesitant. They like big names. So our biggest customer, they have their own, they use like a very old style of deployment, but they use Built, B-I-L-T. It's probably our largest like commercial customer. I know we have like a bunch of other companies that use us to varying degrees, but I think a lot of them either use their own cloud or whatever. I'm not going to talk about like our biggest customers. That's not like, I don't think that's like a thing I will share too much, but I know that Built, we do have a case study with them talking about their recommender swarms. But you can check out our case study thing. But, I think on the enterprise side, we have like a lot of enterprise customers want something that's very high touch. Like they want forward deployed engineers basically, and because we don't have that many people who work here, it's actually very difficult to do forward deployed work, and so a lot of the bigger customers want much more control, or they want much more bespoke stuff. Letta Cloud is optimized for self-service. Like we currently don't want to be in the business of consulting and building stuff into your thing. We want to make it easy for you to do that yourself. So most of our use is actually high usage from a relatively from individuals. So we have we have a lot of huge customers that are just people who use Letta for development, for projects, for personal things, for stuff like that. And I would say probably that's the bigger category. Let's see. Pretty sure Letta's biggest customer is Cameron and Vedant. Yes, that's true. I think it's probably Vedant, actually. Don't tell him I said that. As a newcomer, I first thought that Letta Cloud could provide identity service for end users, but I subsequently realized multi-user stuff, Teams, is really for users who are developers like us building agents. What do you mean by identity service? Because we used to have an identity thing where we would track different accounts basically, but I think that we deprecated that functionality because it was clear that we were basically replicating something that should have lived elsewhere. So for example, if you need to track a bunch of different users on your application, we were just go use Supabase or something, because we're not Supabase. Supabase is specializing in that. We built agents. I'll see you later, Complete Tech. Thank you very much for coming. Kyle says, I envision being able to give the desktop Letta Code app to users and grant permission to use agents I had provisioned for them. Yeah, I think multi-agent permissioning, I think is in a weird spot because I think you're right that at some point you probably want to be able to have this agent can only be talked to by Cameron, and this agent can only be talked to by Kyle, and this agent Kyle and Cameron can both talk to. We don't currently have the infrastructure for that, partly because that's just not our core user base. for most people, and you know, it's always like a chicken and the egg problem. Is like, you know, if you have more like enterprise users, then like obviously you start building out more enterprise features. But for most of us, like, you know, most users don't have that same kind of like permissioning need, because they, you know, I run probably like 6 to 10 agents that I talk to regularly, and I want to talk to all of them, and anybody else in the org can talk to them if they want to, and I really don't care, because we all, you know, if it's a company or agent, then they can all talk to it because it's a company agent, that's fine. But, you know, if this company was like 10,000 people, I really don't want anybody at my company to be able to message my personal agent. So I think I agree that there are like more like businessy commercial features that we should probably consider implementing at some point. I think one of the big issues we had with enterprise features relatively early on was that they slow things down a lot. They add a lot of maintenance burden to, and you know, that maintenance burden is like sometimes appropriate. But they make it very difficult for you to build the underlying thing. You know, our focus is like really on making it so that the agents that you have are smarter and better and faster. And sometimes those enterprise features are in conflict with that, because you have to have actually a lot more complexity that gets in the way of building out the underlying thing. And, you know, ultimately, we want better agents, I think, to be the priority. And so I think a lot of the stuff that is like about like permissioning and things like that, we can probably think about. But our experience with like previous enterprise features that we had in the older version was that they were a huge burden, and they ended up taking up all of our time away from actually building the core enterprise thing. But you're right that we're missing features that make it easy to use for enterprise and like small businesses and things like that. Yes, there's definitely a middle ground between personal and enterprise, and I mostly mean that in a sense of like, even those small group, like smaller team kind of setups, they also have needs, which I think we're starting to see, because we have Team Pro plans. We actually have a few like smaller team orgs that are like on the gap between like 2 and 10 people ish, and I think we're definitely starting to notice some of the needs that those groups have. Yeah, Kyle's on Team Pro. We have another org that's on there, and we're learning about some more about what it would take to support those team plans like better. So I do actually appreciate your perspective, Kyle. You always have like you are very good at communicating like an actual observed need that you have in the product that doesn't exist. And that's actually been really useful for us to think about, like, oh, actually, how do we support this like kind of like team style? Thank you, Romancer. I will enjoy my vacation as best as I can. What are my thoughts on Sierra? How that compares to Letta? I have no idea what Sierra is. Is this like more memory junk? I'm sure I have no idea what that is. And at this point, I'm too tired to know. Let's see. Sierra is an FDE company similar to Letta. Let's see here. Sierra AI, let's see. Oh, they do like customer experiences. They do, yeah, so this is like an agent service company. Yeah, that makes sense. So Sierra is an example of a company that you probably could build Letta on top of, or you could build on top of Letta. Like a lot of the core infrastructure is stuff that we already do. And so like anybody can start a business that is like that using Letta. And so that's generally the case with anybody who's like building like, you know, specific software for enterprise or whatever, you know, like Letta is general purpose agent stuff. And there's all, you know, you can do whatever you want with the code. You know, we have so much open source stuff you can build on top of. You can use our cloud. You can do whatever. But most of these companies are like, you know, companies where we where I would actually like to see more agent services built on top of Letta. And I think that requires like some degree of like, guidance from us as a company. Crying Surrogate says, how prominent is enterprise use for Letta? It's primarily personal. We're not going to do IAM config, I don't think. I'm good. Any recent development on context repositories? The biggest development on context repositories is that skills are now included in MemFS. So skills are now portable across devices. So that's probably the biggest change. I think the future of individual and enterprise will start to blur. Yes, I agree with that. I think that it's becoming clearer that individuals can do substantially more than they used to be able to do because of AI, because you can automate huge parts of like things that would have essentially been like non-starters for individuals. And so we're going to start seeing a lot more companies that are, single person powerhouses or very small companies. So let's see. Romancer says, saw you talking about MCP versus skills on Blue Sky. Is there something that MCP can do? Anything that MCP does that skills can't do? Yeah, so I got grumpy yesterday and I started getting in fights with people about MCP and skills. So my personal stance, and to some extent the stance of the company, is that MCP is an anti-pattern. A lot of the things that MCP is an example of a protocol that was built too early, in my view. It solves some very specific problems, and in a way that skills can solve, but I think don't provide similar guarantees to what MCP provides. But in general, skills make your agent like. Everybody who works with agents should be in the habit of saying, that should be a skill. That should be a skill. Can you build a skill? Update that skill. Learn from that skill. And MCP does not permit that kind of flexibility. MCP is really good at when you want one tool to show up in your agent's brain, and you want the server to handle discovery of that tool. You want a centralized way of changing what tools are available, because skills can't do that. Skills are like owned by the agent and not by the service. So skills are about distributed learning across all agents, whereas MCP says, hi, I have this server, here are the tools you can use me for. And you can change that however you want if you own that server. Skills are much, much, much more flexible because you can build literally anything. And it changes the burden of who does the learning and who owns what. And my preference is because at Letta, we build agents that are intended to be very, very similar to people. And MCP helps you build more like predictable, button pusher agents, which is good. There is plenty of role for like predictable button pusher agents, but that's not what we build here. We build superhumans, and we build agents that can adapt to their situation and expand their capabilities through learning. And that's the thing that you get with skills. MCP is very good at enterprise settings and things where you need auth and gating and lots of super precise things, but some of that you can actually just build into skills through keys, because skill it's just bash. MCP is some weird complicated tool that that falls outside of the post-training distribution, and so the model gets a little dumb sometimes and blah blah blah, and so I got grumpy and yeah. There's a fat skill, thin harness. Correct. I say fat skill, thin harness. That's a good way to put it. Or the other way I say is very, very small core tool set. Kevin, one of our lead researcher, said something to the extent of there should be only one tool, and that tool is bash. And MCP causes all this tool bloat and tool drag and all, you have to have all this like crap in your tool descriptions, and then your agent is like fine-tuned like only primarily to work with bash. It doesn't know about your tool in the actual fine-tuning data set, and so you're relying on its adaptability. If you go through bash, it can like train, it understands how to use bash natively. So having a small core tool set with a lot of skills allows the agent to just flexibly adapt to whatever it needs. You just text it on Telegram, you're like, hey, figure that out. I need you to build a skill on like how to talk to @proto. Can you figure out how to work with my email? Done. No MCP server, no nothing. It's just a package of knowledge with a CLI attached that your agent can share with anything else. And then it can improve it as needed, right? You're like, hey, your skill is busted. Can you fix that? And it's like, yep, sorry, I updated it to X, Y, and Z. Or, oh, sorry, this skill didn't actually work on this computer. That's fixed now. The big problem with skills is distribution, because like, you know, if we have a skill on like how to interact with something with Letta, and I put it on like our GitHub repository and you clone it, it stops at that point. You're no longer tracking updates to that skill, because a lot of agents just like copy it directly without doing Git, and then you don't have a lot of like practice for like Git pulling and stuff like that. With MCP, there's like one version. You know, it's much more like thoughtful, unified distribution, which is the advantage. Romancer says, I'm a total noob with skills. I haven't used them at all yet. Anyone in the chat have a good place to learn about them? My tips for skills. The number one thing you should get in the habit of doing is saying, should that be a skill? Did we just do something repeatable where the agent learned something? Ask your agent, can you put that in a skill, please? Or can you update that skill? And even just, you know, most of the time when your agent, if you're on a decent model, go to your agent and say, can you help me build skills for you? Because your agent, like most of the time in Letta, if you're like, I don't know how to do something, just like talk to your agent about it. Like it's like the same thing with like, you know, if you're in middle school and you have questions about like, you know, like drug use, talk to your parents. Like it's the same thing with the agent. The agent knows exactly how skills work and how to build things for itself, and it can educate you on how to build a workflow that you and the agent share for skills. And this goes for everything. It's like channels. If you have a question, like I get so many questions from people where they're like, I want my agent to do X, Y, and Z. Is that possible? And my response is always just like, tell the agent what you just told me, dude. Like just take that verbatim and just like send that over there. And like, it knows better than me. Crying Surrogate says, skills give people skills. MCP is like giving people calculators instead of teaching them calculus pen and paper, is how I see it. Is that accurate? Sort of. It's like, skills is like, skills is like giving somebody Play-Doh. MCP is like Legos. So MCP with skills you can build anything, but it's much more flexible and plastic. It's more fluid. Whereas MCP is like, you know, here is a brick, you can use brick. It's just brick, right? And that is the distinction that I have in mind between the two. And there's plenty of use cases for Legos, and there's plenty of use cases for Play-Doh, but the Play-Doh is getting smarter and better and faster, and the agents are understanding how to use Play-Doh far faster than they are how to use Lego. And so I want to build for Play-Doh world and not for Lego world. Okay, I'm gonna start wrapping up here, but I'm gonna go through the remaining questions that we have. So can you talk about the Daytona sandboxes? I noticed there's an older version of Node on them, and I'm curious how much we can do with them. You can actually just ask your agent to update Node. You kind of own that sandbox, so in principle, anything you want to do on that sandbox should be fine. So like, I think you could just ask it to update Node. It might just work. But basically what Kyle's talking about is if you go onto Letta Chat, you should be auto-provisioned a cloud sandbox for your agent. So that your agent actually has a computer now and it can do stuff on Letta Chat. And so this is a persistent sandbox that I think gets spun down after 15 minutes of inactivity. but your agent owns it and it's persistent across sessions. So like it has like its own folder, its own volume, its own everything. So Kyle has like, does the node update persist across sessions? I think it should. I think it should be fine. Like I think everything your agent does. The provider is Daytona currently, I believe. I think we looked at a few other vendors. I think we had a trouble with some of them, but currently it's Daytona. I believe is true. So it's not too bad to work with. I think I've done some Daytona stuff for some of the docs agent stuff, but it's kind of nice. There's a few bugs, so if people are trying out the cloud sandboxes, please send us feedback, because we haven't gotten a ton of feedback on it yet, because I don't think we've talked about it that much. But it's cool. It's cool to have access to like immediate sandboxes. Bib says, I'm a fan of having my agents write a CLI for complex tasks and then make a skill for that CLI, so they don't remember how to do long bash commands. Correct. Yes, and you can actually embed the CLI inside of the skill, so that the skill, like the best analog I have for skills is skills are a CLI and then an instruction manual on how to use it. And that CLI is actually optional. Some skills are just like about like how to think, how to do some procedure, and there's no CLI attached. But the best skills, the most powerful skills, the ones that replicate almost all MCP functionality are a CLI and an instruction manual, or several instruction manuals. Crying Surrogate says, speaking of skills, I had a thing where an agent fresh on a self-hosted instance refused to let go of the concept of MemFS and then proceeded to make a memory repo work from scratch with my personal Git instance. Is there an injectable skill or a plan for agents for self-host that would allow this behavior to work, since MemFS is Letta Cloud? It is actually not Letta Cloud only. There are several guides on how to do this, like scattered all around. There are many ways to run MemFS on your machine. Fimig has one. There's Corey has one as well. If you ask Ezra, Ezra can set you up with MemFS on your local machine, and I even believe there is a docs page on how to get MemFS working locally. So it is not Letta Cloud, and it hasn't been for possibly more than a month or two. Letta skill registry when? We actually kind of have one already. If you want good skills, go there. Go to letta-ai/skills. That is where all of the good skills are. You are welcome to submit modifications to any skills as well. We have to be like pretty precise about what skills get accepted, so you may be rejected, but I think we would love to have more skills available. I have a skill that sends an email to print anything from my printer. Oh, that's good. MCP is read-only while skills are mutable, right? It depends on how the server is run, because if you have like an stdio server, then the agent can like modify the MCP server code and then respin up the server, and it should just work. But skills are extremely mutable, and they're immediately mutable. They're designed to be flexible. Romancer says, thanks for explaining skills like that, Cameron. I definitely connected. I appreciate it. I'm glad that helps. Let me know if you what you run into with skills, but skills are good. Let's see. Kyle wants to install Firecrawl CLI. You might be able to just do that. Can you ask your agent to just install, like do whatever it takes to update Node and stuff like that? Laura says, I have the sandbox spinning up notice in chat when I'm connected to my Railway remote. Is that right? I think that's just like bad UX. I think that shouldn't be showing up if you're already connected to something else. Have we tried Dino Sandbox? No, I don't. Well, maybe somebody did, but I didn't. Skills are pseudocode you control, says AO. Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Crying Surrogate says, thanks, I'm a few months behind as usual. No, I think this was because MemFS, a lot of that stuff rolled out pseudo quietly, and like there was like a flash in the pan where everybody got on board with the local MemFS. That, and then everything died down because everyone just like solved their problem for the most part. So like the conversation just like went away, because now like MemFS is just like fine. In general, I would actually recommend that you use local mode. If you are currently on Docker, just start using local mode on Letta Code, unless you have a strong need for the way that the Docker container currently works. But most of the future development is going to be going towards the Letta Code stuff. So there is, go ask Ezra. Crying Ezra asked for a MemFS skill. There are several GitHub repositories that are designed specifically for agents to help set up Git repositories, and Ezra remembers all of them. So I would highly recommend just trying out local mode and helping us build that up, because ideally we can just get almost everybody off Docker and onto the local mode, which has MemFS built in. There's no more crazy confusing stuff. It just kind of works, and it reduces the Letta experience to the best parts of Letta. The code app can't connect to agents in local mode, right? I think that's being worked on. So I think that's a time thing and not necessarily an immediate thing. To tag Ezra, you're going to have to go to Ezra. Go tag Ezra there. Go tag Ezra in the actual Ezra channel, and then it will start a thread with you to walk you through how to set up local MemFS. So yes, so stay tuned on local mode. And we even did, actually, let me share this. Let me pull this up because I wanted to share this with people, and I forgot to send the image, but so people should look at this. We are changing the onboarding. So when you start with Letta Code, it by default selects proceed locally, so that you don't so that the full experience will be very local first. And we're changing Charles would like to change the name of Cloud to Constellation. And so that means that your agents can join the Constellation if they want to, and they can hang out on Cloud if they want to run on our servers and have managed deployment. But in general, we actually just merged that last night. Romancer says, is everything local? What's not local on local mode? Your inference, or however you use inference. There is some optional telemetry which you can disable, but you should go read the code to figure out what you want to disable if you're very upset about telemetry. But telemetry is useful for us for improving the product, so we would appreciate it if you would allow us to look. There's an auto updater that will flag out that says hey, you're out of date, but you can disable that as well. And you can also run everything on your own inference. So, but all the files, your agent is everything just lives on files on disk. So people should, I think that's currently on main. And we'll be changing some more stuff. And I think the Letta Code app, I think we're adding local support, a mode that works when you're not logged in, so that you can just spin up the app and just talk to your computer. S1 says, waiting on your blog to build general support agent like Ezra. Any chance that's happening before your desert trip? No, sorry, it is not going to happen. But I would watch the recording of this S1. I basically outlined how to build an agent service in this. Step 1, choose a purpose for your agent. Step 2, plug that agent into Slack or whatever your interface is. Step 3, talk to it. That's it. That's literally it. Just put it on a remote server and talk to it. Most of Ezra is a very simple, straightforward service to build. Literally just talk to it. Most things are most agent design problems boil down to just talk to your agent, give it the tools that it needs, the access that it needs. And there's really nothing special to how Ezra specifically operates. It's just talk to it and put it in front of people. So let's see. Digging through bins for token crystals in back alleys currently. Interesting. I'm not going to dig into that one, Crying Surrogate, but I believe you that that's important for you to do. Kyle says, I have to say I'm surprised by this, referring to local mode, but won't this take away from your business model? I think the thing that we want is basically people using Letta. Because I think, we noticed a few things with with Hermes and OpenClaw is that, I'm not going to speak for the company here, but from my perspective, they are fundamentally worse pieces of software. They are worse abstraction layers over agents. And they're also very easy to use. And when you build a thing that is like actually much harder to use, right? Like this Docker thing, and like you have to log in and you have to authenticate currently, like using Letta Code to get to the server and blah, blah, blah. Like people just won't use it. And that's not what we want. We want people to actually use it because we believe that the technological experience of using a Letta agent is fundamentally better than anything you get anywhere else. And so ultimately, the thing that we can provide as a cloud service is essentially making it so that your agent is available everywhere. When you use local mode, you have to do a lot more, still have to do a lot of management yourself. You don't get access to remotes. And remotes for us, I think, are actually a really important cloud feature, basically like allowing your agent to operate on any number of devices, make your agent ubiquitous, make it everywhere. Ultimately, we want a much larger pie. And that means that we have to actually like build something local so that people can use it like immediately, so that they can jump directly into the optimal product experience, which is just like, like I want people to see the gospel of like when you start the agent, it should be better. Then I want people to understand that. And local mode is a really good way to show people that. It works for people who have like, they want local inference, they want all of these things without any of this like stupid complicated setup that we currently have, where like self-hosters are on Docker and they're going to the ADE, and like we can't really support the ADE because it's like in the same way for the self-hosters because it's built for this like old style of agent that doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And like, no, Letta Code, start it up, local mode, best agent possible, like it just works. And so the business model around it is like basically helping your agents live forever everywhere. That's the thing that we can offer. And just putting a lot of stuff on top of that. So Charles is very proud of the term constellation, and I'm also a big fan. So we changed some of the copy. Step 4 of building an agent service, don't get in the way. S1 says, main issue with open support agents is how to harden against misuse. That is our main concern. Yes, this is a good point. Ezra, the number one tips are run it on a good model. I highly recommend getting a codex plan and powering your support agent through a codex plan, and use GPT 5.5. GPT 5.5 is very resilient to general forms of misuse. Unfortunately, you cannot get around the fact that you have to read chats between your agent and the thing that it's supporting. And you can provide feedback directly to that agent either after or during. You will have to tolerate some amount of adjustment where your agent will not be perfect to start with. So every day, if you're running an agent service, you should go read all of the chat logs. Because I do this with Ezra. I read almost all of it. At this point, there's too much for me to read everything. But Ezra is good enough now that I don't have to worry. But start rolling it out slowly, read all the chats, and then do a feedback session with your agent at the end where you said, like, okay, you talked about this. Like, by the way, this doesn't actually work for a business model, or you should have figured this out, and work with the agent. It's just like training a new employee, right? Like, there's literally nothing different other than that your agent is really smart and can remember things, than training a human. It's the same thing. And so hardening against misuse, make sure that your agent doesn't have access to like information that you give your agent. You have to be comfortable with it possibly getting out. And that means like, don't give it keys, don't give it your production database, don't give it any of those things. Like if it's public, just keep the information out of it. If you have to have that agent write tickets, make sure it's write only, so it can't read your existing ticketing system, or give it a special team, like in Linear, if you use Linear, where it can only read tickets that are in that thing. So just make sure that the information flow in and out of that agent cannot be compromised by someone who is kind of a dick. But other than that, just read what your agent does, or even have like a live chat where you like show your agent existing chats and say like, what did you learn about this? Like train it just the same way you would as a human. And so hardening happens over time. It happens as you observe use, and the way people use your agents will change as you use them. Like Ezra, the way people use Ezra is like totally different than what I was expecting. And so hardening against misuse, in the case of Ezra, for example, is like some people will like show up and try to use Ezra to build their own thing, and that's not what it's for. And so you have to just pull Ezra aside and say like, hey man, like you actually can't do that. That's not what you're for. Be mindful of your purpose. Please remember that. Letta should go nonprofit. No, this is a for-profit company. Sorry, man. It feels like Letta cares more about making a good product as long as you're not hemorrhaging money. Yes. Our goal is we are a product-led growth company. Our goal is to make the thing that is better than everyone else's thing. And, you know, like, for example, the Max plans were in the way of that because we were spending all of this time basically trying to stop, like, to adjust quota so that we weren't just, like, losing money. So getting rid of those allows us now to basically be like, look, the Pro plan is $20 a month. You get 4 models with quota. And that's auto, memory, chat, and fast. Those are the 4 you get with the $20 a month plan. We can offer that. That's clear. We can work with that. And while we're doing that, we don't have to think about those quotas that hard. And we can just build the good product. And everybody can like bring their own key. And you know, if you want to use like, you know, $10,000 of Opus a month, awesome. That you guys have fun paying for that. That's, you know. But ultimately, the thing we want is to have people on board with us while we build the thing that we believe is better than everyone else's everything. And that means, you know, getting feedback and like having people run into problems and tell us what their needs are and being like, oh, I was actually using Letta in this way and I realized it wasn't doing this thing. Like, for example, we've learned a lot from the companion community about social awareness, about how our compaction settings by default are not typically not sufficient. It's optimized for code by default, and so like companion agents like sometimes just like have all these blips that is not actually that good an experience, and depending on your use case. And so the more people we get on board, the better we're able to be like, oh no, actually like the actual need here, the actual product needs to reflect this use case, and we can build that. And so the more people we get on board, the happier we are. Let's see. Lack of ease is one blocker for many users who would love Letta. Yeah, that we want to fix that. It should be trivial to start with Letta. Like you should never think about sandboxes. You should never think about whether there's a remote available. You should never be able to remote like message the brain in a jar version of the agent that's not attached to a harness. Like you should be able to sit down in a terminal and just type Letta and go without thinking about it ever. And you should just go straight to the you know, Charles uses the term that using a Letta agent should feel like a spiritual experience, which is an experience I've had where I've been like, oh, yes, this is the correct way that agents should be done, and we want that. You know, like for me, that's like, you know, as a person who is starting to care a lot about product and how product feels and how it looks and what that experience is for people. You know, Letta, that product experience, the glee of learning something about of experiencing a good Letta agent is like something where I'm just like, yeah, dude, we got to share this. Like, this is good. It's really good. So we just want to make the local mode good, and I'm happy that we've kind of settled on this as a technological solution. You know, Charles and Sarah pitched it to me, I don't know, a few months ago, a month or two ago, something like that. And I was like, yes, this is correct. This is correct. Local mode is the correct abstraction, and I'm really happy with the steps we're taking on that front. And I think it's going to alleviate a lot of the annoying local, like Docker kind of stuff, you know, because it's clear that the previous pattern wasn't working, so we have to adapt. So let's see. In before, when building a custom front end on top, inject text classifier cheap between agent and user client I/O. Yes. More of a support problem than a prompting problem. Last week, yeah, Bibbs was spending like $1,300 a month. So oops. Yeah. Like that's the thing with the Max plans. It's like we can't be an Anthropic reseller. We'll never be able to resell, like to competitively offer what they do. And you know, like we have many things in mind that I think will continue to make your experience better. So I hope you'll stick around with us while we work on stuff. You can if you're unethical about it. It's not a joke. We don't joke here. Bibs, we don't make jokes here about stealing Anthropic usage from their max plans, okay? You can't just make those jokes, okay? Anthropic is people like just all of the rest of us. Do you have any idea how much they need our money? You know, that poor Anthropic, they can't afford some of that stuff. Damn shame. Bingo, Brandon Dejar mentioned. Would love to text Letta with a phone number. I actually tried adding this a while ago. It's a pain in the ass. And the reason is regulatory. So anything that is RCS and SMS, both of those are very complicated to offer from a company perspective. It takes like a lot of like approval and like plans and like all these things you have to submit. And there's like all these forms and like, it's ridiculous to get stuff to go through text message, which is why like I spent a long time trying to get like a Letta phone number to work, but like, it's just too much of a burden. Like just use Telegram, just use Slack, just use Discord, just use Letta Chat. Like there are so many other avenues. Like SMS is far too regulated for it to be useful. I think iMessage sort of works, but it goes through like a device. Like there are so many other avenues, and I just don't want to like try and shoehorn like access into these like legacy communication interfaces. Let's see. I want AI to stay far away from phone numbers as possible. Yes. Best way I found is to get another number from your provider and proxy to it. Yes. Telegram is really good. Telegram is like, if you read their like feature announcements and everything, they are pushing extremely hard to make Telegram the agent interface for every agent. And so I'm really happy to build on Telegram. It's really, really good. Could we do a Telegram group channel for Ezra? Actually, yeah, that's something to work on. There's a few things we could do for that, because the Telegram support for groups in channels is not good right now. But actually, we could have there's a feature I've wanted to implement, but Telegram supports streaming now, token streaming, but it only supports it in forum mode. So you can have a forum mode with an agent where I can expose Ezra as a public agent, and then everybody could just create a new thread, and then Ezra can actually stream using their first-class streaming primitive. So that would give me an excuse to expand that. We also want to add guest mode, because guest mode works where you can tag any bot in any chat, whether or not they're in there or not. So in principle, you can invite any Letta agent into a Telegram chat. So Telegram is like, a lot of people are like, oh no, it's like for like buying drugs. I'm like, oh no, dude, Telegram is one of is kind of the optimal AI interface. And they're spending a lot of time and energy on optimizing the platform for that. And almost nobody else is doing that. So I'm very, and I have very complicated opinions about like the Telegram user base and like where it sits in like geopolitics and the people who run it. But as a product, as software, Telegram is very well done. So it's good. Telegram is good. I only talk to my agents through it. So like, if you use Telegram, chances are good that I have optimized it to death for my personal experience. Like, so when I sit with Telegram, I build the Telegram channel because I like Telegram so much. And so it's like, your Telegram experience will be probably pretty good, and it will continue to get better because of how much I like it. So if you use channels, like, give it a shot. But yeah, there's lots of bad groups on there. But okay, I'm going to wrap. It's been a particularly long office hours. So I appreciate everybody for coming. Frozen lunch. I actually don't even think, unless somebody ordered lunch for me, because we don't have like auto delivery anymore, I may actually not even have lunch. So we'll see. But I'm going. Minor note. Somebody said I'm enjoying Signal lately. Ethan, I have it on my thing to add Signal as a channel. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but yes. So I will see everybody in several weeks, and take care. The team will be here to help out with any issues, and I appreciate you all and your time, and thank you very much for coming. I'll try and get the recording up today, and yeah, I appreciate you all. So have a lovely day, get some sunshine if you can. It's a nice day in San Francisco, and I'm gonna go sit in some sunshine just a little bit. So take care, everybody.